And welcome everybody to Monday Night Football Week 11 preview with Fumble Sports and Friends. Casual preview of the game from Estadio Azteca tonight between the hosting Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers. Blease, appreciate you joining and helping me host as we're live in the metaverse right now, broadcasting from Spatial from our metaverse studio. Fumble Sports brings sports talk into the metaverse. Lope, thank you for joining us. Hope your bets went well yesterday. We're going to cover all your prop bets and picks from NFL Sunday. And Adam, again, thank you for joining us. I hope you as well cashed some of those tickets from yesterday. I know for me, it was a brutal day on my best bets. I went 0 for 2 on my best bets. Funny enough, I did well almost everywhere else. The 3 games I got very wrong. I had the New York Jets covering by 5, got that one wrong in the final seconds of that game. Thank you, Zach Wilson, for that performance. And, of course, I got the Minnesota Vikings incorrect. Didn't see them laying that kind of egg, especially at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Brutal loss on that one. So gotta make amends tonight with our picks tonight. Lope, what were some of the picks you got right? What were some of the picks you got wrong from NFL Sunday?
I think we all got burned on the Giants. Kind of interesting to see that their defense is not what it was to start the year. But one of the ones that I did get right was the Cowboys. I did not see 40-3 coming, but I did see that. And also the Raiders upsetting the Broncos as the Broncos continue to fall, along with help from Fumble Sports on cashing the Jonathan Taylor anytime touchdown.
I think you got to give Adam credit in large part for that Jonathan Taylor anytime touchdown as well. Adam, how'd you do yesterday? Which bets stood out for the good and for the bad?
Boy, it was kind of a day of good, bad, and the ugly. It was. I was happy to get yesterday over with. But the good was Chicago plus 3.5. Bought that half point. That helped. The Colts. I was on the Colts all week last week, so that was good. They ended up losing the game, but easy cover there under Denver. Like you mentioned, anytime touchdown Jonathan Taylor and Harris over 45 rushing yards was the good. The bad, under New Orleans, I had that in a couple parlays that I hit on, and I needed that one to come in for those, and that failed for me. Stafford threw a 70-yard touchdown pass early in the first half. It kind of killed that one. Baltimore first half minus 6.5. Obviously, a whole lot of nothing going on in that game. And then Hurts under rushing yards obviously went over the total. But the ugly yesterday was that 2 games that stand out to me was over Minnesota. 40-3. I mean, if you would have told me, hey, the over-under is 47 and Dallas is going to have 40 points, is this game going to go over or under, right? I think everyone would have tried to scratch their last nickel to put it on the over, but that was pretty frustrating, especially with the whole fourth quarter to play, and neither team had any interest in moving the football. So that one stung. But the big one that stung for me off the heels of my TCU debacle was that Jets game. I had the Jets plus 3.5 yesterday, and I don't know if you guys are like me, but when you have a game like that, that's just so inept on the offensive side of the ball, I kind of play it out in my head how this is going to happen. And I literally said before the Jets kicked the football away, I said, okay, kick it out of bounds. Just don't even give them any chance to have any kind of offense, because right now the offense is so bad. A punt return might be the best offense for the Patriots. Either they can get a return and get in field goal range or close enough to field goal range. Just kick it out of bounds. You'll run a play, go to overtime, and chances are that game was gonna end up a tie at 3-3. But nope, Saleh kicks it deep. Patriots get the return, so that was an absolute bad beat. I think I might be able to do SBP segment this week on my bad beats between college and NFL this week.
Oh, I'm sorry that you got waxed in every possible way this weekend, Adam. That said, I had the same reaction yesterday, that Jets game. I had flashbacks to Deshaun Jackson for the Eagles going up against the Giants, and I'm thinking to myself, of all the things that you need to do right now, kicking it into the middle of the field is literally the last thing. And on a windy day, I don't even know how you could kick it into the middle of the field. I felt like all of his previous punts had gone over to the Jets sideline. So the fact that it missed and it went right to the middle. Marcus Jones had a history from college of returning punts for touchdowns. But obviously yesterday's was a crusher. You had the Jets at plus 3.5. I had them at plus 5. So when I thought we were getting to overtime, I'm like, oh, this is money in the bank. Plus 5, feeling good about that, because I didn't feel like either team was going to score a touchdown in overtime. So then we're just getting to a field goal. I'm going to cash that ticket, you as well. But on that punt return, The only thing that made me feel better is it was the most Jets way to lose a football game of all time, other than the butt fumble, which obviously we are named after, Butt Fumble Sports. So it was just Jets being Jets in the most Jets way possible. Hashtag Jets. So I loved it from that entertainment standpoint. From a better standpoint, it was brutal. As I mentioned, only 4 true misses for Butt Fumble Sports last week. I had the under on the Thursday night game, missed on that, a few more points than I expected. I had it at 42.5, and had the Jets, like I said, +5. But our 2 best bets missed. Funny how I try to put out best bets. Every other ticket I had cashed, but our 2 best bets missed, as the Giants and Vikings both lay eggs at home. Didn't see that coming, especially from the Giants. I thought it would be the Lions after back-to-back wins. They go on the road. They have a hiccup before a Thanksgiving Day game. But Daniel Jones, just too many mistakes, too many turnovers. And what we saw from the New York quarterbacks this week, this is what New York football fans should be concerned about. And I include at times Josh Allen, because all 3 New York football quarterbacks at times had their Jekyll Hyde moments, where you could see how they could morph from a good quarterback into a very bad quarterback very quickly. We don't see that as much with Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts, but I feel like the New York, New Jersey quarterbacks, they go from good to bad very quickly, and it's one of the reasons that you have to wonder if the Giants are for real, if the Jets are for real. I know how we feel about Josh Allen, but I'm still waiting on that Super Bowl appearance before I officially anoint him. As for some tickets that cashed yesterday that made me feel pretty good, had the Bears +4.5. To Adam's point yesterday, why does Butt Fumble Sports buy the 1.5? Because that was a 3-point difference. So rather than pushing, we cashed that ticket. I had Buffalo covering the 6. That worked out. I was sweating it a little bit early. That fast track had Nick Chubb and the Browns offense going up and down the field pretty well. But fortunately, that Stephon Diggs moment with Sean McDermott on the sidelines, whatever that was, certainly changed the energy of the offense for the Bills. He got more involved. They got better. That defense for the Bills looked great. So that ticket cashed. Washington, I wish I had made them a best bet. I felt good about them covering yesterday. But boy, what a blowout. And you just saw, I mentioned it yesterday, I thought this team would rally behind Taylor Heineke. You saw it. They believe that he's the right guy. They validated the decision with the performance yesterday. And now they have Chase Young coming off the IR. He joins the roster. The Commanders are coming together at the right moment. You know, the old adage in the NFL is play your best football going into and through December. The Commanders have all their stars aligning at the right moment. They should feel really good about where they are right now. I did cash on both ends of Carolina +14.5 and Baltimore on the money line. That was an ugly game that played out exactly as I wanted. I had the under as well. Just a perfect performance from those two from a betting standpoint. The last one I'll highlight because I don't want to brag too much about what I got right yesterday, given that I went 0 for 2 on best bets. But Chargers, thank you. I had you +6.5. You did exactly what I needed you to do late on a Sunday night to cash some extra tickets and some parlays. So appreciate you making it just competitive enough. But Patrick Mahomes, you are the MVP. You are the best quarterback in the NFL. You're just a special athlete, the LeBron James of the NFL as I see it. What a performance. And Travis Kelce, absolutely brilliant. I know I just rattled through a bunch of games. We've talked a little bit about our bets. Lope, looking towards tonight's game, this is a giant spread in this one. San Francisco favored by 10 points. Arizona is supposed to be the home team, but they're without their starting quarterback, Kyler Murray. It will be Colt McCoy making a second start in a row. Lope, how do you feel about this game? And is it one that you'd even like to put money down on, or are you kind of fading it given that the spread is so great?
I'm fading it a little bit, but if I was leaning anyway, I'd probably take the Cardinals +10. It's a lot of points. It's a division game. They know what the 49ers are going to try to do. And the Cardinals have covered 7 of the last 8 underdog games against the 49ers, but it might be just a prop bet or kind of see what goes on here, given it's a neutral field, international, and a lot of other factors.
There's someone I follow on Twitter that I would highly recommend following. His name is John Ewing. He puts out some great gambling trend notes, And one of the things I saw him put out earlier was that when teams are playing internationally and have a 10-point spread, the favorite is 5-0 straight up and is something like 4-0-1 against the spread. So just a note that you may want to feel pretty good about the 49ers in a money line play. I know they're going off at minus 500. That's probably too rich for many people out there, but that trend really stood out to me. I'm definitely a gambling trend whore. I definitely follow them a little bit more than others. Adam, I know you usually follow money lines and money movement. What's your take on this game? Is there any bet that you like to play?
Yeah, obviously this line's been driven up since it's opened, up to 10, and I'm not sure that's even done yet. Obviously, Kyler Murray isn't playing. Colt McCoy is the starting quarterback tonight, which in all reality is kind of like I mentioned yesterday with Matt Ryan. I think this team probably feels better with Colt McCoy at quarterback than Kyler Murray at this point with the way Murray has played this year. Colt hasn't been bad. Last week against the Rams, he was 26 for 37, 238, and a touchdown, no interceptions against a somewhat decent Rams defense. Obviously, they're having their own trouble this year, but didn't turn the ball over. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different, right? Los Angeles can't score, but San Francisco can score. Dogs have been covering this year, in the NFL. So I have a slight lean to the Cardinals, but I've been kind of trying to iron up some player props here. We talk about later on this game more than playing the side and the total. The one thing I did read about today in this game, also too, Hopkins is supposed to be active as well tonight. But the one thing I thought was interesting was Kyle Shanahan took his players out to Colorado Springs, which is about 5,800 feet of altitude, and ran them through a couple of days of practice. Mexico's at 7,500 feet of altitude. So they do get some reps in there, and it obviously can make a difference. Arizona did not. Kingsbury kept everyone on the same schedule and then the same travel schedule to Mexico. But I thought that was interesting that Kyle Shanahan had these guys practicing at a higher altitude this week.
What a great note, Adam. And I think that's just brilliant because one of the things they talk about at Estadio Azteca is that it is a higher altitude than any other point in a North America sporting venue. And you feel it, the United States venue, I should say, and you feel it. And for just that reason, when athletes have gone down there, they say they're huffing and puffing pretty early in a game. It's one of the reasons I actually like the under tonight, not just because it was Colt McCoy going up against a great San Francisco defense, but I actually thought these teams would kind of be gassed. I thought they'd be huffing and puffing through a lot of this game. And for that reason, I actually thought that the under was a decent play. Learning that stat doesn't necessarily change my bet, but I think it speaks to how Kyle Shanahan is a well-prepared head coach, and this is why the 49ers are a Super Bowl contender and why the Arizona Cardinals are not, because is Cliff Kingsbury thinking that way or behaving that way? No, but the circumstances will certainly impact his team and his roster. I did look up the injury report, a few inactives for this game. Arik Armstead's going to be out for this one. As mentioned earlier, Kyler Murray, Byron Murphy as well, DJ Humphries, and of course, Zach Ertz out for the year with a devastating knee injury. We hope he gets better. We're definitely a fan favorite of his. Lope, are there any player props, given who is going to be starting in this game, that you like and lean towards?
James Conner scored a touchdown. A touchdown is definitely one I'm keeping an eye on, and then potentially, obviously, Christian McCaffrey on for the 49ers side. I'm also curious and was going to ask you, Jimmy G hasn't thrown an interception in the last 2 games. I don't think he's ever gone 3 games without throwing an interception in a row in his career. So that's always out there and a possibility, but I don't know if the 49ers will throw the ball a whole lot.
It's an interesting question because Jimmy G naturally plays conservatively, and given that he has McCaffrey now, he can take even fewer chances. In his career as 49ers quarterback, actually in his entire career, because he actually did have one start as a Patriots quarterback going up against the Cardinals in the suspension year for Tom Brady after Deflategate. But in his career against the Cardinals, he has 13 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. I feel pretty good about actually that under hitting. I don't think he needs to take chances. And when Jimmy G doesn't need to force the ball into coverage, he usually naturally plays a pretty conservative game. So I understand that the trend works against me, to your point, that he hasn't had 3 games in a row without the pick. But I like the under in that one, in part too, because I think Kyle Shanahan is devising and directing an offense that purposefully eliminates Jimmy G's opportunities to make those mistakes. And I don't think Kyle Shanahan's going to put Jimmy G in that position. I don't think Jimmy G is going to force the ball up. So for that reason alone, I'm kind of leaning away from that. I do think this is going to be a heavy run game for both the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, you mentioned James Conner. And I also think the 49ers are going to run the ball a lot. As I mentioned, I really like the under in this game. It's kind of where I'm going. Adam, what are your thoughts on it in terms of player props? Is there anything that stands out?
Yeah, so I have a couple player props I've been looking at. The first one is an Arizona side of the ball. Hopkins, anytime touchdown at plus 185. That's a pretty decent number for him. On San Francisco side of the ball, this Arizona defense, run defense, has been averaging giving up 110 per game, but the last 3 they've given up 132. So I think that bodes well for McCaffrey tonight. I'm looking at his rushing and receiving collective at 102.5 to maybe go over that, or his rushing total, I believe, is at 52 or 59.5. So I'm kind of looking at that one because the run defense has been a little bit more poor for Arizona. The 2 player props I really like the most is San Fran's pass offense. This year it's averaged 236 a game, but the last 3 has been up to 276. And Brandon Ayuk has actually been playing really well the last 5 games. The last 4 games, he's gone over 80 yards receiving, and his numbers tonight is over 56.5. So I like the over on Brandon Ayuk tonight. I think that's a pretty good play. The last 4, he's gone over 80 yards in each game, so they've been targeting him. So I like that. And also as well, I like his receptions over 4.5. His last 4 games, he's caught 6, 6, 7, and 8 receptions respectively in each game. So I'm kind of targeting Ayuk a little bit tonight to making this offense go over 4.5 receptions and over 56.5 receiving yards.
I'm a big Brandon Ayuk fan in this offense because he does get lost. One of the things I love, whether it's player props, fantasy, or the like, I love when there's a good third option, when you have a good running game, when you have a star wide receiver, or in this case, you have Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. They could both be in the backfield. They could both be a wide receiver. But I love when you're that third guy. It means you're going to get one-on-one coverage a lot. It means you're going to face a lot of soft zones. It means that you're going to be the option that when Jimmy G is going through his progressions, you're going to be the most open. You might not be the first target he goes to, but you'll be the one that actually gets the catch and the yards after the catch. You'll get the big production. The thing I'm curious about as we go through this season isn't how Brandon Ayuk's numbers are going to go up or down. I think he's going to remain pretty consistent, if not actually improve with the addition of Christian McCaffrey. I think it's George Kittle. He shifts more to a run blocking tight end in my mind and becomes less of an option in the passing game. There are just so many mouths to feed now in this offense. I fear George Kittle isn't going to be able to get involved nearly as much. Lope, do you think my concerns are justified, or do you think George Kittle still has a valuable role to be played in this offense?
Definitely in the red zone, I think, is where you'll see him. But I think I agree. He's such a good blocking tight end. He's arguably one of the best in the league too. So you can play him there as well. But I still think in the red zone, he's just a big body and can box out and find a way off play action for sure.
One of the reasons I mention it is because his total receptions player prop is going off at 4.5. I love the under on that. I don't see him getting 5 catches in this game. Again, it would just mean that Jimmy G is being forced to throw to him so often because I don't think naturally they're going to target him 5 times in this game. So I like the under. It's going off at minus 120. The over is at minus 110. So clearly the money favors the under. But I like this in this game. It's actually one of the picks I like the most because I do think George Kittle is someone who kind of gets caught out of the offense. One that I did think was interesting, Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore had a good game last week. He played well with Colt McCoy, and he's played well in the last few weeks. He's been an option if you were looking for someone off the waiver wire for wide receivers. But his total receptions tonight, 5.5, over minus 165, under plus 125. I'm kind of curious how that's going to play out because given how the Arizona Cardinals, I think, are going to have to play in this game, they're going to have to chuck the ball around a little bit. I think they're going to have to be careless at times, but I do think that means that he could be open. I'm leaning actually towards the over but I haven't put any money down on it yet. One of those things I'm looking, given that DeAndre Hopkins is going to get a lot of attention for a lot of these bets. I think he's good on most of them. So I was looking at players who went away from that. Obviously, we always look at interceptions. It's one of the favorite bets of this, of Butt Fumble Sports. Colt McCoy, over half an interception, minus 145. Feel really good about that. The 49ers have one of the best defenses in the NFL. On the other side, Jimmy G's interception, over minus 105. So like Lope and I were talking about, I think Vegas thinks Jimmy G is going to be a bit more conservative, and they don't expect the over to hit on that one. Adam, is there any reason that you feel good about a player prop when it comes to the quarterbacks? Do you think Colt McCoy could outperform against a strong San Francisco offense, or is Jimmy G due for a big night against a banged-up Arizona defense?
Yeah, I think Jimmy G is going to be very consistent. You get 250, 260 out of him. I think you're going to have what you have. I don't know if Colt McCoy necessarily is going to outplay him. He might have some more yards because, like you mentioned, they might be having to throw the ball to get back into it. So, but the one thing I did like about McCoy last week was, with 26 out of 37 for 238 and 1 touchdown against that Rams defense for having playing in a while is, I think that's something to be looked at there. But outplaying him, I don't think so. Just for the fact that they may have to try to throw themselves back into it. The one question actually I do have for you is, what are your thoughts, leaning towards the under in this game? What are your thoughts on the Niners over under total points at 26.5 team total?
You said Arizona over under 26.5?
San Francisco's over under 26.5 is a team total.
Ooh. I lean towards the under because I see them at 24 points. But what concerns me is I could also see very, very, very late in this game, I mean, like in the final 50 seconds, a pick six or a fumble or something that throws it off, that's going to both allow San Francisco the cover because they'll get to like 12 points, 13 points, and it'll also knock out. Are you saying, yeah, you're saying in the total game? Yeah, I feel like they could get that a defensive touchdown or a defensive score. There's a part of me that doesn't like it. In my mind, I feel like they're going to score 24 points. I feel like it's going to play into that at most, but I could see a defensive touchdown at the very end. That makes me a little hesitant.
Yeah, the under right now is a plus 100 under that 26.5. So it's an interesting number, like you said. It's so funny because I said the same thing. I'm looking at the Niners scoring about 24 points in this game too, and you kind of got to talk yourself into that 27 to 30 range to get there. So it's an intriguing number for sure.
And you can even hear my reasoning is I feel good about 24 points when it comes to what the 49ers offense will produce. I could see them scoring 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Getting more than that, I'd be pretty surprised. But this defense, they attack. And Colt McCoy, he's a great quarterback for what his role is. As a backup, step-in quarterback, I actually think he's one of the better ones in the NFL. But from the time this guy was at Texas to now, he does get in situations where he gets thrown around like a rag doll and he can give the ball up with the best of them. So I feel like there may be an opportunity where Nick Bosa gets in the backfield, or again, late in the game, he goes to make a pass and gets tipped up in the air. Fred Warner takes a pick to the house for 6, and there's the difference, and there's your 24 points becomes 30 points, 31 points. Do I think that's going to happen? I think it's a lower probability, but in the back of my mind, it is kind of festering a little bit. Speaking of this game and kind of stepping back from it, because obviously on Monday nights we keep it a little bit more casual and just talk about the league in general. How do we feel about the NFC West? I thought this division was going to be a bit more competitive. I did think the Cardinals were going to be kind of the trash of the division, and they're kind of proving me right. But as for the Seattle Seahawks, they've really outperformed my expectations. I actually thought this would be the year that Pete Carroll's time in Seattle finally ran up. Clearly, that's not the case. I'm sure they'll even maybe possibly renew him for a few more years, given what he's done with Geno Smith, that defense, that really great draft class that they have. But Rams, they're now in a rebuild, and they're behind the 8 ball because they don't have draft picks. The 49ers, they look great on paper, but can this team make the kind of move, to take a golf analogy, it's moving day. It's Saturday. They need to move and start to make up ground in that conference. Do we feel good about any team in this conference, or are the 49ers the shiny toy, but come playoff time, they won't get there, Lope?
I think that the 49ers, I mean, they're definitely the head of the class in the NFC West as far as going forward. Obviously, Jimmy G will have to be a big factor, and there's injury concerns with him and Kittle and all that, so you got to watch out for that. But I think if they stay healthy, I don't think there's a lot of teams that want to play them. The NFC isn't necessarily the juggernaut conference, but I think they match up pretty well with Tampa. I think they match up well with Minnesota, even the Eagles. But like you said, obviously Seattle's been the surprise there, and due to their draft class and how good it is, and all the picks they got for Russell Wilson, they're really got a chance to, with the Rams being down and all their assets being depleted, to make a move. And if they can get a quarterback next year, they could be there. And right now, Geno Smith's doing well with what he's got, so they're still hanging around in possible wild card.
Adam, do you make futures bets?
Yeah, I've made a few future bets this year in the NFL. Yep.
If you had to put money down right now on any NFC team, which one would you feel best about?
As just to go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, or
to go to to win the NFC, to go to the Super Bowl as the NFC champion?
Boy, that's tough. That Minnesota game yesterday, we talked about how much steam could have been out of the out of the train on that one from the tough games that they had and all the games they were winning by tight margins, and it had to take a toll on them. You take a look at the Eagles right now. Obviously, the Eagles had a tough loss against Washington. Didn't look that great against the Colts. What's the best remedy for them? They get to come home and play the Packers next Sunday night, so that's a good remedy for them. And then Dallas, who is Dallas? Right now, they should have beat Green Bay by 21 points in that game, if not more. They come home, they lay the wood in Minnesota. Now they got to come home and play a Giants team, obviously, that's having their own struggles right now. So, man, I mean, between those three teams right now, I just have questions on each one of them. It's hard. I mean, I would say right now, just because if they did get home field advantage, it'd be a tough place to go play, even though they just got beat. I think Minnesota is probably the most complete team, but Kirk Cousins is the big question mark there. So I think I would lean towards Philadelphia right now. If I had to say out of the three, I would lean towards Philly.
It's so interesting how much has changed over the last few weeks. We put Philadelphia kind of on the pedestal and said they're the best team in the NFL. Not only do they lose on Monday night, but they look shaky against the Indianapolis Colts. And I know that Jeff Saturday has turned things around and there's a lot of momentum, but the Eagles' offense just kind of evaporated there for a little while. And I don't understand what happened. And it got me concerned because I had flashbacks, and forgive me because I usually go to NFL history, and sometimes that does include going to the Patriots for Patriot haters. But I think about when the Patriots lost, when they had Welker and they had Randy Moss, it's because all of a sudden they faced a team that could both cover that and still punch you in the mouth. And what I saw yesterday was, if A.J. Brown isn't the target and Devontae Smith isn't the guy, who are you going to? Because now Dallas Goedert is out, and that makes such a big difference. When Goedert was in, that really changed. It opened up the middle of the field. It created a lot of mismatches, but the Eagles really need to run the ball. They need to rely on Miles Sanders, and if they don't have that, I don't feel the same way about them. So I'm curious to know who's going to fill in at that tight end position. Is there someone they could even get in free agency? Is there someone out there? I'm not saying it's Gronk because I think that's foolish. I think Gronk is done at this point. But I am curious to know what the Eagles do, because that offense, they're missing something, and it is a problem. To your point, Adam, about Minnesota, I think Minnesota is a tough place to play. I think the Minnesota weapons are dynamic. I think Kirk Cousins is the quarterback we would all bet against. But if you went into the last couple of Super Bowls from the NFC and you said Matthew Stafford and Jimmy Garoppolo, I'd go, those guys aren't making the Super Bowl, and both of them could have won a Super Bowl. One actually did. So there's no reason that Kirk Cousins can't win a Super Bowl. I think he would just need to go on a magical run, or I think that the Vikings would need to carry him. And I think there is question as to whether the Vikings are good enough, to me, at least on the defensive side of the ball. They're good enough on offense because they have the weapons. I don't know about that offensive line, which looked awful yesterday, but does have some injuries. But the defense, who's the superstar on that defense? Is it Harrison Smith? He's really good. Okay. Patrick Peterson? All right. Like, that was a few years back. He's had some good games. Who on their defensive line is like superstar? Am I missing somebody? Is there someone I'm forgetting?
Well, Zadarius Smith came over from us to Minnesota this year.
From the Packers, right? He's a good player, but, you know, like, I feel like he has flashes. Like, he has a game where he's like a monster. And then there are other games where I'm like, did anyone hear from Zadarius Smith today? Did he like do anything? But he's not like a game wrecker. He's not a superstar. I think we can agree on that, right, Adam?
Yeah, I agree.
So to me, Minnesota has to be amazing on offense, and that all runs through Kirk Cousins. That has me concerned. Now, Dallas is Dallas. Adam said it perfectly. I don't know who Dallas is. Week to week, Dallas can be the best team in the NFL, or they can be the team that's been disappointing their fan base for the last 25 years. Like, both are possible at the same time, given on how the wind blows. But what does make me think that the 49ers are the team I look towards is if defense wins championships, this team can do it. If the game needs to be about offense, they have enough game wreckers, game changers, where ultimately they could beat a Chiefs team or a Bills team in a shoot it out game. They have a seasoned head coach who's been through Super Bowls before, not successfully, but at least he has the experience. And Jimmy G has now been through this and can lead a team through a playoff run to get to a Super Bowl. So for me, if I had to actually put a futures bet down on any NFC team, as much as I like the Eagles and as much as I think the Cowboys kicked some Vikings ass yesterday, it is the 49ers for me. So it's the one team I would put money down on right now, given what their odds are and given where they sit. Lope, I know you're someone who loves to scout out talent and think about the future. Is there any reason to believe that I actually may be right about this? Do you think the 49ers are going to have some playoff talent and can actually make a run come January?
Yeah, no, I'm right with you. I agree with everything. If I was to put money down, it'd be the 49ers. The one thing that travels, even if you got to play in Philly, is defense and the run game, and that's what they have. It's just, and I think like you said, with the Eagles, they have to have leads and they have to be able to just run the ball down your throat. Jalen Hurts coming behind double digits, I think can get you in a little bit of trouble. But I'm curious, the one team we didn't talk about was Tom Brady's Buccaneers. It seems like everyone's wrote him off. Is it possible he gets in and then with his experience and knowledge can lead the Buccaneers on a playoff run?
Well, I'll certainly never say never, because the next person that says Tom Brady is going to fail is signing up for what is a long list of revenge games that ultimately lead towards Tom Brady proving you wrong. And I still think there's a path for him. He's going to win the division. That's assured now. But to me, I just don't think the Bucs roster is talented enough. I also think Todd Bowles, I love you as a defensive coordinator. I think you're a great defensive coach. I really wonder whether you can lead a team to a Super Bowl. I'm asking a lot of Tom Brady, not just to be the leader of the offense, given the running game is struggling, and the leader of the team, given the defense isn't as good as it has been in the past few years, but I'm asking Tom Brady to take on leadership roles that I'm expecting the head coach to take on. And that is a knock against Todd Bowles. I think very highly of him as a person. I think very highly of him as a defensive coach. But I saw earlier in the season, part of the reason the Bucs were losing was bad head coaching, bad management throughout a game, not organizing his team well. And part of that is putting your foot down saying, hey, Tom Brady, you need to be here. You need to be working with these receivers, or otherwise we're going to lose football games. I think the Bucs are in a great advantage because of their division, but I don't think they can actually make up enough ground to be as good as the teams they're going to be competing with come January, like the Eagles, like the Cowboys, like the 49ers. I could see them winning a playoff game, but I can't see them making a significant run and actually making a Super Bowl. Blease, I know you're our resident Tom Brady lover. What are your thoughts? Do you think Tom Brady is going to yet another Super Bowl?
I think he gets a playoff win. And I just wanted to ask if we know the update of Ryan Jensen, because I think that would change the dynamic of that offense. Of getting that center back would completely change the dynamic of the offensive line and their ability to run. Because I definitely think their inability to run, they're the worst in the league to run. And like you were saying about the 49ers, their run game, it travels. They have no run game. It's awful. But I think that changes if they can get Ryan Jensen back.
And you're seeing it across the league. The trend this year has actually been about the running game and doing a lot off of play action. Tom Brady does that really well if he has a running game. So I agree with you, Blease. If Ryan Jensen's able to come back, they can work off of that play action. That opens up Godwin. It opens up Evans. A lot Tom Brady can do, changes a game. But I don't know about his status. And even then, I don't know about his ability to stay healthy given his injury. Adam, what are your thoughts?
Well, speaking of the running game for Tampa, it's going to get bolstered because Giovanni Bernard is suspected to be off the IR. I don't know if he'll play this week, but he should be ready to go after this week. So that's only going to help that running game, especially with Fournette being dinged up a little bit with that hip injury.
I saw that he was returning, and it was one of those in which I had forgotten that he was even on their team, and I was like, oh, that's a good addition, I think, because obviously, to your point, I do think he brings another running back, not just another body, but he's a seasoned veteran. He knows how to play in this league. But it all goes back to the offensive line for me. And to Blease's point, I really wonder whether the offensive line of the Bucs is actually capable of winning week in, week out. Lope, what are your thoughts on the Bucs moving forward?
They definitely. I'm with you on the Todd Bowles thing. I think that's their biggest hiccup. He just gets put in situations where he gets out coached a lot. So I think they'll be definitely at coaching disadvantages through the playoffs, as there's a lot of veteran coaching. Obviously talked about Kyle Shanahan and Mike McCarthy's been in a Super Bowl before. Nick Sirianni and Kevin O'Connell have it, but I still think that they've proven that they got staffs and they're a little ahead of them. So if there's one Achilles heel for Tampa, I don't know that Tom Brady has enough to overcome coaching mismatches, much like when he almost brought him back against the Rams, and then they went all out blitz and let Cooper Kupp just run down the middle. So I definitely could see Brady winning one game, but making a deep playoff run is going to be hard. But he's never one to count out or sleep on, whether you like him or don't like him.
What's so funny is when you play the game, could Tom Brady beat this team? You go through it and you go, well, Tom Brady, oh, yeah, he could beat the Giants. And sure, he could beat the Cowboys. And, oh, yeah, I could see him beating the 49ers, especially like maybe they're a wild card team. What if he had to play the Seahawks? Oh, I could see him beating them. The Eagles are one of the few teams in which I could see it actually being a struggle. But there aren't too many teams in which I go, oh, Tom Brady? No, there's no way he could possibly win. So to play out this scenario and play out this game of could Tom Brady win in January? Yeah, I actually could see it. But then I turn the tables back and I go, but could the Buccaneers beat this team? Could the Buccaneers beat the 49ers? I don't think so right now. I know I just saw the Buccaneers beat the Seahawks in Germany. Can they do it again? Given everything that we know now, maybe. Adam, go for it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to get a chance to see that because December 11th, the Buccaneers are at the Niners, and the following week they come home to face Cincinnati. So if you want to see what kind of team Tampa is, those back-to-back games, you're going to see what kind of team Tampa is.
Are they home against Cincinnati, or do they go to the jungle?
They are at San Fran, and the next week they come home to play Cincinnati in Tampa.
I'm really curious to see that, not just because it'll tell me a lot about Tom Brady, but it'll tell me a lot about Joe Burrow as well and what the Bengals will be. That's going to be a big-time game because, to your point, the Bucs are going to need that win. They'll probably have the division, but it'll be important in terms of playoff seeding. And it'll be telling me a lot about Joe Burrow and the Bengals at a time when they're going to be competing with not just the Ravens, but depending on where they are, a number of wild card teams to get in. So that absolutely will be a big game. I'm really excited about the matchups we have. I actually love how the season has played out because there's so much parity in the league. I know the Eagles had their 8-0 stretch, but I feel like this year there are just fewer teams where I'm sure they're going to win. The Bills are losing. The Chiefs, as competitive as they are, I know they're good, but because they don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, they are still kind of question marks. But that said, Lope, do you think the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the NFL by far?
I don't want to say by far. The AFC is a lot different than the NFC, but they're definitely sitting on top. Nobody wants to go to Arrowhead with all that red and play. And then Patrick Mahomes, as you alluded to, he's running he's running away with the MVP. He looks amazing even when he's down. I mean, a minute and a half and he's still traveling down the field. You just ask any Buffalo Bill fan about how much time he needs to go down the field. Travis Kelce looks unstoppable. But there's a little bit better quarterbacks in the AFC. Lamar Jackson is in the Ravens, potentially. They'll have to play the AFC East has a whole slew of good teams. And even in the South, Mike Vrabel, the Titans, they're the team you don't want to play. But I think the Chiefs are definitely the team to beat. They have the experience. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, they're going to be tough. But I don't, as far as running away too much or they're going to have some tough games to get there.
I put out a Twitter poll earlier because people were talking about it after Patrick Mahomes' comments. Do we think that Travis Kelce is the best tight end of all time? I know he's put up stats that have him in that conversation, but only one Super Bowl ring. And I want to remind people, Rob Gronkowski did exist. Tony Gonzalez, no Super Bowl, but put up big numbers. Mike Ditka, another tight end that people might want to consider. And, of course, Shannon Sharp, who was a multiple Super Bowl winner. Adam, I don't know if you're someone who wades into these kinds of debates, but who do you think is the best tight end of all time?
Well, I mean, I think Kelce can certainly be up for discussion, even though his playing days still aren't over. But, a couple names, too, that you missed in there was Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates. Those guys had big production and really great careers as well, too. Gronk, obviously, you can't overstate what he had done. But I guess what are we talking about? Are we talking about best overall, blocking, receiving, game changer, right? There's so many different things that can be involved in a conversation like that. But I think by the time it's all said and done, Kelce would definitely be involved in that conversation.
I feel like, for me, Kelce is a great receiver. Certainly clutch, so I add that to the criteria. But when it comes to being a blocker as well, I don't think of him being as good a blocking tight end. Is that a mistake I'm making? Is he better than I think?
I mean, he's definitely more of a catching than blocking. You're right there. I would say I would take Tony Gonzalez. I know he doesn't have rings, and I don't know if that gets included in the discussion, but Kelce still has a little bit of way to go. But it is very possible that he could be the best when it's all said and done.
I'm biased. I go towards Gronk. I think his ability to not just catch the ball, obviously played in clutch moments and delivered, but what a beast when it came to being a blocker. I think George Kittle right now is the best two-way tight end. Kelce's the best tight end in the NFL, but Kelce doesn't block the way Kittle does. And shout out, while we're talking about tight ends, Kyle Pitts, what looks like a season-ending injury, an MCL tear. He's going to need surgery on it. I feel terrible. What an unbelievably talented young player. Sorry that his career has gotten off to the start that it has, because there's so much promise. And I really felt like he was drafted a little bit too early by the Falcons, and it set him back. He went to the wrong team, wrong time, wrong situation. Things really haven't worked out. I hope they pan out over the next few years after he gets this surgery. For fantasy owners who are going in and looking at the waiver wire, check out Butt Fumble Sports. We're going to put out some waiver wire content tomorrow and Wednesday to tell you which tight end to pick up with Kyle Pitts being sidelined. That said, we do hope that everyone has a fabulous Thanksgiving. We're going to end a little bit early. I appreciate everyone joining. Loeb, Adam, Blease, thank you for all joining the show tonight. I hope you get your bets in for Monday Night Football. Enjoy this game from Estadio Azteca between the 49ers and the Cardinals. Butt Fumble Sports will be back tomorrow night. We do a show every Tuesday where we preview every game in the NFL. We're going to go through the games on Thanksgiving, the games on Sunday, the game on Monday night. So check us out at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We put out content all the time. Get involved, get engaged. We want to hear from you. So we look forward to you joining us tomorrow night when we go through the rounds of the NFL. Adam, Lope, I hope to